The story begins in Finland in the year 1944. At this time, World War II is coming to an end, and soldiers from different countries are returning home. The Nazi army is ordered to leave Finland, but before leaving, they start destroying everything in their path, blowing up roads, bridges, and villages. Around the same time, we are introduced to Aatami, a Finnish commando. After years of fighting, he is tired of war and wants to live a peaceful life. When the war ends, Aatami leaves everything behind and starts living alone in the forest with his loyal dog and a horse. One day, Aatami notices small pieces of gold shining in a river. This makes him believe that there must be a gold mine nearby. From that day on, he visits the river daily and begins digging around the area. After digging for several days, Aatami finally finds a large amount of gold in one pit. Seeing this, he becomes extremely happy because he knows that this gold can change his life forever. He carefully collects the gold and hides it in his tent. That night, he stays awake the entire time, guarding the gold, afraid that someone might steal it. The next morning, Aatami packs all the gold into a bag, mounts his horse, and leaves the area with his dog following him. After traveling for a few hours, Aatami suddenly comes across Nazi General Bruno, who is passing through the same route with his soldiers. Bruno was traveling with a dangerous tank, and along with it, he had kidnapped several Finnish women. The Nazi soldiers were brutally abusing these women during their journey. At that moment, we see a soldier named Wolf who is forcing himself on one of the women. Aatami notices Bruno, but instead of reacting, he ignores Bruno and the soldiers and continues moving forward. Soon, Wolf approaches Bruno and raises his gun to shoot Aatami. However, Bruno stops him and says that there is no need to waste a bullet because another Nazi unit is coming from behind and that man will die anyway. Aatami moves on and soon comes across many dead bodies along the road. The Nazi soldiers are killing people as they leave the country, but these corpses do not affect Aatami because during the war, he himself had taken many lives. After traveling a little further, Aatami sees a truck filled with Nazi soldiers. They order him to get down from his horse and then search his bag. Inside it, they discover the gold. The soldiers decide to keep the gold for themselves. At that moment, Aatami realizes that they will take his gold and then kill him. So first, he quietly signals his dog to run away. When one of the soldiers sees the dog escaping, he tries to shoot it, but none of the bullets hit, and the dog manages to escape safely. Then one soldier insults Aatami and tries to shoot him. Instantly, Aatami pulls out his knife and strikes the soldier in the head, killing him on the spot. The other soldiers attempt to take revenge and attack him, but Aatami moves quickly and starts killing them one by one with his knife. At the same time, he uses one soldier's body as a shield to protect himself from the bullets. After that, Aatami beats one soldier to death using his helmet. Suddenly, another injured soldier tries to grab him from behind. Aatami twists the man's arm, takes his gun, and shoots him dead. Meanwhile, Bruno and his troops hear the gunfire and decide to turn back to investigate. But by the time they arrive, Aatami has already escaped. Bruno sees that all his soldiers have been killed. Near one of the bodies, he notices a small piece of gold, which the soldier had hidden in his pocket. The moment Bruno sees the gold, he realizes that the old man who passed by earlier is responsible and that he must be carrying a large amount of gold. Greed takes over, and Bruno decides to chase Aatami. Not long after, they spot Aatami on the road. Bruno orders his tank to open fire, but Aatami pushes his horse to full speed and manages to escape. While fleeing, Aatami unknowingly enters a minefield where the Nazis had planted landmines. Soon, Bruno and his men reach the same area. However, Bruno stops his soldiers from shooting and laughs, telling them that the foolish old man is about to be blown apart. Suddenly, Atami's horse steps on a landmine. A massive explosion follows. Aatami is badly injured and his horse is killed instantly. After some time, Bruno arrives at the site and sees Aatami collecting his gold and placing it back into his bag. Bruno chooses to wait because he does not want to risk entering the minefield himself. He plans to kill Aatami once the gold is safely gathered. As soon as Aatami finishes collecting all the gold, Bruno orders his soldiers to shoot him, but Aatami is already prepared. Holding a rock, he throws it onto a landmine, triggering another powerful explosion. The explosion causes thick smoke to spread everywhere, and Aatami uses the smoke as cover to escape from the area. The Nazi soldiers begin firing blindly into the smoke, trying to kill him, but Aatami uses his shields to protect himself from the bullets. After some time, Bruno sends one soldier to check the area. The soldier accidentally steps on a landmine and is killed instantly. Shocked by this, Bruno sends two more soldiers, but they also step on mines and die the same way. When the smoke finally clears, Bruno realizes that Aatami has escaped once again. This makes him extremely angry. In his rage, he decides to use two Finnish women as human shields to cross the minefield. Wolf drags the most frightened woman forward and forces her to walk in front of the tank. While moving ahead, Bruno searches the area and finds Atami's dog tag, confirming that Aatami was there. After some time, the group slowly crosses the minefield. During this, Bruno uses the tank's radio to gather information about Aatami. The headquarters officer tells him, "The old man's name is Aatami. If you are smart, stop chasing him. You are lucky to be alive after meeting him." He then reveals that Aatami was the deadliest commando of World War II, and no one wanted to make him an enemy. Bruno also learns that Russian soldiers soldiers had killed Aatami's family during the war. After that tragedy, Aatami became ruthless and stopped following orders. His officers eventually gave up trying to control him and sent him alone into the forest to hunt Russian soldiers. Since then, Aatami has killed more than 300 Russian soldiers by himself. The officer ends by saying that many believe Aatami is immortal and that Bruno should not continue the chase. But Bruno feels no fear at all. He continues hunting Aatami because he knows that after losing the war, punishment awaits the Nazi soldiers. Bruno wants to use Aatami's gold to escape his fate, and for that reason, he is determined to steal the gold at any cost. Meanwhile, we see Aatami moving forward when he comes across a burned truck on the road. To hide, he lies down behind the truck. Using his knife, he removes the bullets from his wounds and covers them with dirt to stop the bleeding. Soon, Aatami's dog arrives at the spot. Since Aatami had earlier ordered the dog to stay away, the dog does not come close and watches him from a distance. Because of his severe injuries, Aatami loses consciousness. A few hours later, the sound of voices wakes him up. He realizes that Nazi soldiers have arrived and are using dogs to track him. Aatami quickly crawls under the truck and watches the soldiers carefully. Seeing an opportunity, he sneaks under a Nazi truck, cuts its fuel tank, and lets the fuel spill all over his body so that the dogs cannot smell him. Unable to find him, the Nazis decide to make a new plan and stay in the area. When Aatami tries to escape, one of the dogs spots him and starts barking, alerting the soldiers. They open fire, and a bullet hits Aatami's leg, but he still manages to run away. Bruno orders his dogs to chase him. To scare the dogs away, Aatami sets himself on fire and jumps into a nearby lake. The soldiers begin shooting at the water, but Bruno stops them and waits for Aatami to come out of the lake. Aatami stays underwater for a long time. When he finally comes out for air, the soldiers immediately start shooting again, forcing him back underwater. Soon they see blood rising to the surface, and everyone believes that Aatami is dead. Thinking the danger is over, 3 soldiers take a boat to the middle of the lake to retrieve the gold. One soldier jumps into the water, and at that moment, Aatami grabs him from below and kills him with his knife. Blood begins to spread across the surface of the water. Seeing this, Bruno sends another soldier into the lake, but once again, more blood appears. The third soldier becomes terrified and starts rowing the boat away in panic. Enraged, Bruno shoots the soldier dead for trying to escape. At that moment, Aatami emerges from the water. To protect himself from the gunfire, he uses the dead soldier's body as a shield and manages to escape. Bruno then notices Aatami's dog standing at the edge of the lake, crying because it cannot cross the water to reach its master. Seeing this, Bruno begins planning his next move. On the other side, after walking for several hours, Aatami finally reaches a city. However, the city has been completely destroyed by the Nazis. Exhausted and badly injured, Aatami decides to rest inside an abandoned gas station. While lying there, he struggles with the pain in his leg and remembers the day he lost his family. Eventually, Aatami falls asleep. A short while later, the sound of his dog barking wakes him up. Aatami is relieved to see his dog again, but then he notices something horrifying. A stick of dynamite is tied to the dog. Aatami quickly removes the dynamite and throws it away, but it explodes immediately, knocking him to the ground with a powerful shock. When Aatami regains consciousness, he sees Bruno standing in front of him. Bruno has captured him. Bruno takes all of Aatami's gold and then places a small piece of gold in Aatami's pocket, planning to frame him. After that, Bruno hangs Aatami, leaving him to die. But Aatami is not dead yet because he had placed his injured leg on a support, which saved him from the full pressure of the hanging. After this, Aatami slowly places his other leg on the support as well. The pain is unbearable, but this position keeps him alive. His dog stays beside him, sitting quietly and waiting for him to come down. The night passes, and by morning, an airplane lands nearby. Because of the strong wind from the plane, the rope breaks and Aatami falls to the ground. 2 pilots step out of the plane, searching for fuel. During this, they notice Aatami and his dog. One pilot tells the other to shoot them, but the second pilot hesitates, clearly afraid. Seeing his chance, Aatami attacks the pilot's legs, causing him to fall. The pilot's head hits a rock, and he is knocked unconscious. Soon, the second pilot rushes in. Aatami quickly hits him with a brick, killing him on the spot. At this moment, Aatami believes that he may never recover his gold. Thinking it is over, he buries the small piece of gold that Bruno had placed in his pocket. Suddenly, Aatami notices that the first pilot is still moving. Realizing he is alive, Aatami comes up with a new plan to use the pilot's plane to reach Bruno and take back his gold. Before leaving, Aatami pulls metal fragments out of his wounds, treats them, and binds his injuries tightly with wire. Watching this, the pilot becomes terrified. Finally, Aatami leaves his dog behind, climbs into the plane, and takes off in search of Bruno, determined to reclaim what was stolen from him. On the other side, the Nazis come across a crashed airplane on their route. Wolf goes inside the plane to check and finds that the pilot is dead. Then he notices something shocking. The pilot has the same rope around his neck that was used to hang Aatami. At that moment, Wolf realizes that Aatami is still alive and has come back for revenge. Bruno also understands how dangerous Aatami is, so he immediately orders his men to escape from the area. Next, we see 2 Nazi soldiers sitting in a truck along along with the kidnapped Finnish women. The soldiers are talking about Aatami. Hearing their conversation, a woman named Aino starts laughing and tells them that Russian soldiers tried many times to kill Aatami, but no one has ever succeeded. She explains that Aatami always survives, no matter how bad the situation is. He returns every time and kills his enemies one by one. She also tells them that in the Finnish language, Aatami is called SISU, which means bravery and unbreakable courage. She says confidently that the soldiers will die at Aatami's hands, and this makes her smile. Suddenly, Aatami attacks. When the second soldier tries to jump out, Aatami pulls him down and slams him onto the ground, where the soldier is crushed under the tank and killed. Aino tries to take the dead soldier's weapon, but at that moment, Aatami climbs into the truck. Seeing the Finnish women inside, Aatami realizes that they were kidnapped and are completely innocent. Without hesitation, he hands the weapon to them, choosing to protect them instead of himself. After that, Aatami climbs onto the truck and knocks the driver down, allowing Aino to take control of the vehicle and help him. She slowly drives the truck closer to the tank. However, the soldiers inside the tank begin to suspect something is wrong. To avoid raising suspicion, the women use the dead soldiers' bodies to make it look like everything is normal. Soon, Aino drives her truck next to another Nazi truck. At the right moment, all the women open fire, brutally killing the soldiers inside. Aino also shoots the truck driver, causing the truck to roll off the road and crash below. Meanwhile, Aatami tries to break open the tank's hatch. Suddenly, Bruno jerks the tank forward, and Aatami falls to the ground. Seeing this, Wolf jumps out of the tank to kill him, but Aatami quickly climbs back into the tank, and a brutal fight begins. During the struggle, both men fall to the ground. Inside the tank, only Bruno and a soldier named Schultz remain. Schultz panics and tries to escape to save his life. Aatami catches him and begins to attack, but before Aatami can kill him, two bikers pass by. They recognize Aatami and flee in fear. Aatami spares Wolf's life and grabs a motorcycle to chase the tank. Wolf believes Aatami has shown mercy, but moments later, the Finnish women arrive and take revenge on Wolf, killing him for what he did to them. Meanwhile, Bruno meets a pilot and plans to escape using his plane. The pilot tells him that the plane can carry only one person. Without hesitation, Bruno shoots Schultz dead and boards the plane alone. Just as the plane begins to take off, Aatami arrives and opens fire on the aircraft, bullets tearing into it as it lifts into the air. Aatami quickly moves directly beneath the plane and uses his pickaxe to grab onto it, while Bruno believes he has finally left Aatami behind. Hanging on, Aatami grabs the landing wheel and finds a way to climb inside the aircraft, reaching the bomb bay floor. Soon, Bruno begins to hear strange noises coming from inside the plane. The pilot tells him that the aircraft is very old and the sounds are nothing to worry about. But Bruno remains suspicious and decides to check the bomb bay himself. The moment Bruno opens the door, Aatami jumps on him and a fierce fight breaks out. Because Aatami is badly injured, Bruno slowly gains the upper hand. Still, Aatami refuses to give up. Bruno attacks Aatami with a metal belt, but Aatami grabs the belt, ties it to a bomb, and pushes it out of the plane. Bruno is dragged down with it, and the explosion kills him instantly. Aatami finally thinks he can rest, but suddenly the plane begins to lose control and dive downward. Aatami realizes that during the fight, the pilot was shot and killed, leaving no one to fly the plane. With no way to escape, Aatami clutches his gold, accepts his fate, and prepares for death. Moments later, the plane crashes into a swamp. At the same time, a Finnish military unit spots what appears to be a Nazi tank approaching and prepares to attack. But soon they realize the truth. It is the Finnish women, bringing the Nazi soldier Wolf tied on top of the tank. On the other side, we see that Aatami survives the swamp. Using his pickaxe, he manages to pull himself out. A few days later, Aatami arrives in the city of Helsinki, walking into a bank with his loyal dog. When the people inside see Aatami, they are terrified by his appearance. But Aatami calmly walks straight to the counter, places chunks of gold on the desk, and asks the banker to exchange them for money. And with this powerful moment, the amazing movie comes to an end. If this story kept you hooked till the end, hit the subscribe button because the next story will be even crazier.